Welcome to Pulp Mythos. I'm Brian here with Spencer and Larry, and we're going to be discussing The Stand, episode number 8, The Stand. Sort of the end, but not really. But it sort of should have been, and we'll talk about that here in a moment. Yeah, everything basically happened in this episode. Arguably the end. The conflict is over. We've gotten past the Dark Man. Real quick on that point, there's one more episode. So my assumption is it'll be the same length. You know, all the episodes are in that 45 to 55 minute range. So I'm assuming we'll get a similar length episode, about just under an hour. What is left to tell us outside of Stu getting home and Franny having the baby? Now, Stephen King supposedly had some ideas of, I guess he wanted to extend a few things here and there. So maybe there'll be a time jump. I'm just guessing. I don't know the answer to this. Is that where you think this is going to go? That maybe we'll get a massive time jump and we'll see how society grows? Just speculating here, but it was a thought I had. What do you guys?
Well, I want to say one thing. Yeah, possibly. But if we did at this point, we should have got it in a book because then I'd care. And I disagree that this episode should have been the end. The end should have been, this series should have ended when they were discussing making it. It never should have started because it's just that bad.
God damn.
Oh, no. I think that next week is just basically going to be, remember at the end of the last Harry Potter movie where there's like an epilogue that lasts 6 minutes?
Standing at the train?
Yeah.
Is it just that?
It's going to be a 45-minute epilogue of what happens after the story ends.
I don't disagree. Like I said, the only thing really left to do is Stu gets back, him and Tom, which is set up, and we'll talk a little bit more about that here in a second. And then she's going to have the child, and that's about it.
Have either one of you saw the redoing of The Shining with the dude from Wings?
Yes, I did.
Well, that's, to me, when he redid that, he was like, Stanley Kubrick made this dark. And I'm like, dude, all your books are dark. So for him to make it darker than what he intended was horseshit. But it's crazy because that whole ending, that movie, I want to say was done before Dr. Sleep. And Dr. Sleep, he wrote
way before, yeah.
So when he wrote Dr. Sleep, it was basically off of what? Stanley Kubrick's version of the movie? Because
sort of.
For this, for him to redo it, it's just his gripe with whoever did the original miniseries. And he just was like, I didn't really like what they did here. I'm going to change this. And I don't understand that sometimes.
Well, yeah. And it's like whether that was the case or not, it's just like this whole thing was sloppy. And, I don't see how you don't read the script for this and see how sloppy it is. If you really took it in, like maybe you thought the pacing was going to be different when you read it, or, they're not going to jump around as much. But if you read it and you saw the way that they pace things and how little time you get with these characters, then you can clearly see that this whole series was going to be a mistake.
Nah, man, we're going to get the 14-hour Snyder Cut version.
Well, that's what this needed, actually, I think, is another 4 or 5 episodes.
Yes.
There's a scene, I'm jumping ahead in my notes, but at this point, who cares? There's a scene that I actually quite liked. I hated everything Lloyd did except one thing. So I'm going to jump to the middle and we'll go back. But Lloyd, there's a scene after the courtroom where he goes upstairs even after Nadine's death. And I'm assuming anyone listening to this has watched the episode, but he's sitting in the ground and he gets emotional and he's talking to the judge. I guess I'll just call her the judge. And they're sort of discussing Randall Flagg and what they're going to do next, and he's getting a little emotional. It wasn't the emotion that I liked. It was the conversation, because it reminded me a little bit of Game of Thrones when like Joffrey was king, and everyone around him is talking about him. How do we deal with this guy? Everybody knew what he was. They knew the danger of him, and they're all trying to navigate around him. And I thought this was an interesting scene because I'm like, we could have had a whole series about this where Randall Flagg is this scary thing. is he a demon? Is he the devil? What is he? And all the people that work around him having these discussions and trying to figure out what their role is as a part of this. I think you could have told a more interesting story, smaller stories like that. I know it would be, slightly different from the book, but there's a lot of shit that's different from the book, so who cares? So I don't know. That particular scene sort of made me think there could have been more. There could have been more in terms of how we approach this story.
Oh, you absolutely hit it on the head with that, because that's the problem. We're not telling those smaller stories. We're not seeing the communities come together, either one. It would have been nice to see both, but heck, to be honest, it would be nice to just see Colorado become Colorado, if anything, and actually, on some level, have enough time with these characters to actually care about them. It would have been nice to see, because, we have the whole line, and, that's the idea that you get from the book and things, that the people in Vegas are people who have been corrupted and controlled by fear, and that things are just very totalitarian. We didn't see it become that. We got to see because we got that whole line that, well, they're people just like us. They don't seem like people just like everyone there seems like a sociopath.
Yeah, that absolutely. The courtroom scene.
They don't seem like people, and we never got that. We never even got hints that there's even an ounce of humanity in them, other than them being mildly disturbed by Randall Flagg biting a person's throat out. Which is weird, because they watch their gladiatorial combat every day, and they have slaves, and they're fine with all this. They're fine with all the violence, all the evil, until Randall Flagg does it himself. That's the only thing that disturbs them. And what show of power, what threat do they have from this man? Like, oh, he bit a dude's throat out. It's like, okay, well, you see all that, you see that craziness all around Vegas from the regular citizens of Vegas. And what reason do they have to be scared of him, more scared of him than their neighbors, other than the fact that he can float? Because that's the only thing they see. They've seen him in their dreams, and he can float. For all we know, those are the only two powers that Randall Flagg has.
Mind freak.
Oh yeah, and he looks like a zombie sometimes.
Damn, I hate that you said that, because I didn't even think about that until now.
I've been thinking about that every time I saw that scene.
Dude, man, he's in Vegas.
I know.
He's not even an evil person.
He's
just
Chris
like
Angel.
He's one of those hypnotherapy people who convinces people they're chickens or whatever.
He's Chris Angel's uncle.
Hell, we could have had that scene where someone rebels, and they're like, hell, I'm not scared of this Vegas magician. Who says he's in charge?
Yeah, I mean, you're completely right. Absolutely. I can't argue with that. He never really shows anything, and in the and we've been saying it for weeks now. I guess we'll continue the trend, but in the original miniseries, whenever Flagg was challenged or somebody called him out, he would use his powers. He would cast spells. He would do things to them. People were afraid of him because he showed them what he could do. He showed them that he wasn't just a guy that could float around. Yes, he had soldiers. Yes, he had Lloyd, and he had people around him, but he could do shit himself. And that was an important part of that series, for whatever reason, outside of the elevator sequence from a couple weeks ago. You're right. He doesn't do anything himself in this show, including the finale, where he's just standing there whining, essentially, and asking Lloyd to do shit. Why didn't he do it himself?
Yeah, and we really didn't get much of Randall Flagg, to be honest. And well, we didn't get much of any character. And it's sort of
Harold. Harold was the one.
We got plenty of Harold, and we got more than enough of Lloyd. But
too much.
I don't know. I love Lloyd.
Let's talk about the trial real quick. Unless you got, what was you saying, Larry?
Well, I was just gonna say I hate Lloyd, because I think, like you said last week, they haven't really. It seems like his personality is a little different every week, and he doesn't seem fit for his role. Even from the perspective of a character like Randall Flagg.
Last week's Lloyd was different than this week's Lloyd.
I like it.
He has played it different almost every week. So the courtroom sequence, I hated the first half. I quite enjoyed the second half, and that the enjoyment came from Glenn. Glenn making a legit argument, a very legit argument to the court, and seeing how it was affecting them. Um, I was like, yeah, Glenn's right. Listen to what he's saying. I was, and of course he gets killed for it, but I wish Flag had come in at that point and been, proved him wrong.
Well, I think that would have added to what you guys just said. The fear of Randall Flagg is there hasn't been any reason behind it. If he would have called him out and he would have literally just materialized and took care of Glenn and then like dematerialized, then it would be like, oh, well, shit, I'm not going to say anything about him. It would have made sense as far as the fear goes. But for him to hide the whole time and somebody else to do it, like,
and that's the thing. I'm glad you used that word, hide. That's what it felt like Randall Flagg was doing the entire series, hiding.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what it felt like. Like he's hiding from his people whereas, any other interpretation of Randall Flagg, we don't get the idea that he's someone that needs to hide from anyone he's controlling. And, well, at least not in the Stand. Because there's a number of depictions from him, and yeah, he is, but in this particular depiction, he's not seen as like, well, outside of this particular show, he's not seen as like, oh, he's this sort of cowardly figure who's hiding behind Lloyd. He's generating a lot of that fear himself. He's clearly a very evil and dangerous man. Whereas, in this one, I mentioned it earlier to some degree, but they all seem evil. So what's to be scared of?
Well, and my thing was to you look at, and I love Harry Potter, but in the last couple books, and this is a spoiler in case, Jesus Christ, if nobody knows, this part of this book, but
Spencer, I still haven't read those books.
Probably not, but they talk about Voldemort coming back, but not everybody believes it. So he's kind of sowing distrust and disbelief amongst everybody, not just his followers. I think if they would have spun it that route, it would have been more believable what happened. And then he finally reveals himself at the end. But that's not what it was, and that's not how it felt.
Yeah. It's I don't know. This whole thing's been weird. This whole series.
So we were right last week. I think Spencer might have been the one to say it. Why keep Nadine around? Clearly, there needed to be they were setting up a thing with Larry, and they did. It was fine, I guess. Giving the whole birth sequence and her going through the window, I didn't really like it because it framed it in a way that made Randall Flagg yet again look weak. And she didn't manipulate him in the original. She actually manipulates Randall Flagg, and that leads to her going through the window. In this, she just fucking that didn't play out that way. So, and I really want to read the book because I'm curious to how the book plays that particular sequence. I doubt this way, but I could be wrong.
Well, I think it made Randall look, because throughout this series, he's this evil entity that is manipulating people and stuff. But this, for whatever reason, made him feel more human, which made you almost feel sorry for him for a second.
That's what I don't like.
Yeah, that's the problem. Yeah.
And you shouldn't feel that way about that character. And that was an issue.
Yeah, absolutely. And I felt that way too. It was it's the sort of thing where, this man is supposed to be evil incarnate, and it feels like he may have actually felt something for Nadine. Whereas, in any other interpretation, you get the idea that it's like, no, he doesn't care about anyone. He's using everyone, because we get the big scene where he emotes and, over, the death of his child and everything. And, and it's played way too sympathetic for it to be Randall Flagg.
Yeah. And if they would have played it up to where he was mad that she did it instead of, because I didn't feel anger. I felt more of like a sadness, like the look on his face and everything felt like he was upset that she died and that he lost his baby, as opposed to being pissed off that she died and took his baby. So to me, gave a different feeling and one that I didn't want from that character.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad you mentioned Voldemort earlier because, Randall Flagg is a Voldemort. He is your personification of evil for the series, and yeah, it's a little black and white, but the character is a little black and white, and it's on purpose, and that's okay sometimes, and often it works, and it's the sort of thing where he's not a sympathetic character, and I don't think Stephen King has ever really presented him in that way.
No, and you're right, Larry. It is very black and white. The whole point was you had the evil and you had the good, and the idea of choice came from the people. The people made the choices on where they aligned, but the forces of good and evil were very much set, and he is evil.
Yeah, I mean,
that's just the character. That's just the story.
Yeah, exactly. That's the whole story, that it's good versus evil, and that Mother Abigail and Randall Flagg represent entirely different sides. Two sides of a coin here. I mean, it's the cover of the book where you got the two people attacking each other there. Yeah. It's and to sort of say, well, let's see this sympathetic side to him. It fell flat to me. It takes something from that portrayal of the character.
We get. So the ending, there's a lot to unpack here, and I'm gonna try and
good luck.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you can say it in one word, honestly.
What? The hand of God or what?
Well, I guess not one word, but one statement. Ball of lightning.
There you go. So Larry and Ray are being brought in for their execution, and in the original miniseries, it was more of a crucifixion, which fits in line with the theme of the series and what we've been shown constantly, the idea that Randall Flagg crucifies people. Well, they decide they're going to chain them to a pool and drown them. That was the first oddity of it. It took me out of it briefly, but I was like, all right, whatever. Maybe they thought it was a cool visual, filling up the pool. Okay, fine. Then we have, Trash Can Man's bringing in the nuke. Okay, that checks. That's happened in the original. And then we get the weirdest shit ever. Okay, let me bring up the thing I liked. I like the dance scene. I like Randall Flagg dancing. I don't know why. It amused me.
Viking.
Yeah, that's what yeah, exactly.
Well, I'd say that is in character. I like it too, because it is in character for the guy. That's sort of a weird trolly thing he would do.
He's having fun. Yes.
Yeah.
I agree. But then... So the Hand of God thing happens, but not at all like this. So the thing that kills everyone in New Vegas in the original, and I'm assuming the book, is the nuke. The nuke goes off. But in this, that is not... I mean, yes, the nuke goes off, but it doesn't need to go off because the force of God, or whatever you want to call it, comes in and just starts vaporizing everybody, killing everyone. I don't understand why they did it this way, and more importantly, why did Randall Flagg, when people started turning their back on him, why did he cower and try to get Lloyd and others to shut them up? Why didn't he do it himself?
I'm very curious about that too, because for one, it wasn't like a wave of people. It was like 3 people that turned their back on him.
That too. It was literally just a couple. Yeah.
It's like, has New Vegas never had any dissenters before?
They had. Well, they sort of they crucify them.
Yeah.
So it sort of has established that they have, but why didn't he in the original? There's a scene. It's a quick scene. A guy is just like, yeah, fuck you, Randall. He doesn't say that, but it was TV. But he's just like, no, I'm not down with this. And so what does Randall Flagg do? Does he go to Lloyd, say, Lloyd, stop him? Does he go to one of his soldiers and say, stop him? No, he casts like a spell and he takes the guy's mouth away because he has magic powers and he's evil. He can do this. And that's what I'm saying. He does things. He can he doesn't need anyone. So in this, he doesn't do that at all.
My issue with the ball of lightning is not because of there's a ball of lightning. The way it happened, it felt like a more personal death for all these characters. Had they built up those characters on a personal level, I think it would have meant a lot more. Lloyd gets these screen times where he's just acting like a complete another douchebag, and then he finally gets a redemption story, and then he dies. If they would have spent an extra episode trying to give him this redemption story, it would have felt more personal. The
And he doesn't just die; he gets a Final Destination death. He doesn't even get the lightning death.
Well, and then you have like the Catherine McNamara, the pink-haired female who I don't remember what her name was in the show, but they spent very little time on her. She was a piece of shit. They tried to make it personal that she died. But I didn't care. I didn't get enough screen time to be happy about her dying or even care that she died. So I understand, I think, what they were trying to do by doing it that way, but it didn't have the desired effect because I didn't care about any of those characters.
Right.
I know this is a weird I'm going to mention a movie. Have y'all seen the old Charlton Heston 10 Commandments?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I know the apples and oranges here in terms of, period, the film, it's a film, it came out a long time ago. Point being, it's a really slow story, but there are certain characters in that are like really, assholes, and you're like, fuck this guy. But bad things happen to them and you feel sad about it. It takes a lot of time, and I've only thought of it because of the biblical connections. It does a really good job of introducing every character, letting you understand who they are. Good things happen, bad things happen. You feel the weight of the situations. Now, obviously, like I said, it's an old fucking movie, but point being, this felt like that particular scene, the hand of God coming in and killing these people. It just felt like a sci-fi original attempt at doing the 10 Commandments, and that was the line I wanted to get out.
Like it feels to me like someone gave up on writing an ending and just said, whatever, a ball of lightning kills them, so I guess I'm saying my problem with the ball of lightning is that it's just a ball of lightning that comes out of nowhere and completely invalidates the whole of the story. Like, because
why need the nuke? Yeah.
Why need the nuke? Why need anyone to travel to Vegas? Why need conflict with Randall Flagg at all? Maybe, I guess Mother Abigail was right in the beginning when she said nobody should go to Vegas because God was eventually going to come down as a ball of lightning and kill everyone. So there was no need for anyone to show up. It's completely pointless.
You're 100 million % right.
Like,
that sequence, it devalues everything, the stand.
Well, yeah, and there's no need for the nuke unless the goal was to kill Stu and the character whose name I can't remember. Herbert. Is it Herbert? No,
Tom.
Tom. Yeah, to kill Tom and Stu, who should be dead because they're in a nuclear fallout. Unless and they're not dead, but unless that was the point, there's no point for the nuke.
Well, I think that the ball of lightning with everybody running away, it didn't kill everybody. The nuke, like I said, I think that where they failed was creating the characters on a personal level where I cared about them. I think that the intention was to kill everybody. The ball of lightning wasn't going to be able to do that because it was doing individual deaths. Like it was killing one person at a time as opposed to, blowing up a whole crowd of people. So I think the nuke still would have accomplished that goal. But like I said, I didn't care enough about the characters that it was taking out one at a time. It didn't feel like there was any weight behind it. Like I didn't care. I also think that the nuke itself, like you said, it didn't discredit it, but it did devalue the importance of it. Like it just didn't matter. But I don't agree with how they did it because I don't think it was necessary. But I kind of get why they did it, even though I don't necessarily agree.
Well, yeah, it brings up a lot of it brings up more questions than it does answers. Like, because you can't just say, "See, ball of lightning killed them," the way that they decided to do on this show. Like, because it brings up the question of like, well, why does this sentient ball of lightning need a nuke to accomplish it? Couldn't it have just chased down the rest or appeared wherever they are? Because, it had no problem showing up here and killing people. Next time they reassemble, just send your ball of lightning. There was no need to sacrifice Larry or anyone else. Just
I don't think it did a good enough job explaining what triggered it.
Yeah, it really didn't, because you could say, and this is a leap on my part, like not too much of a leap, but you could say that those three people having doubts and saying I should fear no evil, I will fear no evil, did it. It's like, but is that all you need? There were never more than 3 doubters at a time?
Well, there's a line of crucifixions all the way up the strip.
Yeah,
so
right.
Clearly there have been those who've turned their backs on Flag, and they were punished for it. It would have been nice if we had actually gotten to see one of those occur. But yeah, I don't know, man. That lightning thing threw me.
Like, is that why they do that? The minute they see someone doubting Flag, to deter the ball of lightning, they crucify a person?
They're like, Zeus is coming.
Like, nope, kill that guy right now. We're not going to have any lightning. Not like last time.
So Stu, we get a couple scenes with Stu, and he's contemplating taking the pills, and he's got the dog, and they were fine scenes. They were okay. I was pretty checked out at that point, but they were fine for what they were. And yes, Tom finds him at the end, and as I said at the front, they'll find their way back to town.
No, he didn't. He found the dog. He didn't find Tom. I said, didn't he just find the dog? I don't think he found Tom. I think it's implied.
It's implied. Same.
Maybe Tom just shows back up and sees.
Yeah, because Tom finds Kojak.
Yeah.
So Kojak's definitely going to lead him back to Stu.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I saw in the original series. The original series ends with Tom, Stu. Like I said, which is the oddity. Stu's the main character. He sort of played the main character in the original, and this one it's sort of, but he'll get back, and then we just have Franny's birth. I don't know how you do an hour of that, and like I said, maybe there's a time jump. I don't know, but that's the story.
Yeah.
McGruff surprised me.
You said the word dog.
Speaking of surprises, I was just very surprised given the point that we're at. I never thought to myself, it's like that, man, I'd love to erase my idea. Well, I didn't think by this point, I'd think to myself, I'd like to erase my, any thoughts of this series and go back and watch the old one. Yeah, I thought I might like it less or more, but I thought this would overall be an enjoyable experience. Well, I guess I was wrong.
Yeah. Trying to think. That's it. Anything else you guys want to say?
I mean, I said it. I don't know if I said it on here or prior to, but as much as this whole thing has been a very huge train wreck, this one was my favorite episode. Like I said, some of the things you can explain away doesn't mean that it's right or doesn't mean that it's better because of it. But to me, some of these things actually had explanations. My biggest gripe with the whole series is that you're trying to make us feel for these characters, but you're not giving us the tools required to feel for the characters. This episode, to me, what they should have done is shot this episode first and then shot all the other episodes to make this episode make sense. And I think that it would have been 100 times better because of that.
Well, I mean, as far as pacing, because I know you mentioned before we started that, you like the pacing in this better. And, it's like, and now that we're at a point, and this isn't your part, the thing you said, but this is me, this section. Now that we're at a point where we're going in sort of order of continuity, the order of things happening. Yeah, I agree with you. The pacing was pretty good on this, and I'll give them that. But for this to be as bad as it was and be one of the better episodes, just highlights to me how bad this series has been.
I don't disagree. I mean,
yeah. And I think I want to end with saying, if you didn't like this, if this is your only, reference point for The Stand, please go back, watch that old series, read the books. I mean, read the book because it's better. Yeah,
go read the first Gunslinger novel if you want to Some Randall Flagg. All right. Anything else?
Just please watch that old series. Read the book. The series is beloved for a reason. It's good. Just not this one.
Hey.
Oh, come on. How many times did your family watch this back in the day, the original?
You keep saying that. Like, my family was not all about watching the Stand miniseries. Now, if you were talking about Lonesome Dove, I got you. This is like it. But this one, not as much. I have seen it, but it's been 30 years since I saw it. But
I'll say it was a very common thing for families to repeatedly watch this after it was, year after year. Every time it's played, you watch The Stand because that was the nature of television. You tuned into what was there, and this is one of the things we were.
I was
happy
a Storm
to
of the
watch.
Century family.
Oh yeah, we watched that too. We watched it too.
did.
I guess in general we were a Stephen King family, which I guess this goes without saying also too that a lot of those original Stephen King movies back in the day, they were just better.
Storm of the Century, and I saw it not that long ago. Again, that shit holds up so well. That it legit holds up. Very fond of it. But yeah, anything else?
no, not that I can think of.
All right, one left. We'll see y'all next time.
Bye.
Bye.